this is the stuff that never makes it into a spy movie, right? You have a stable of assets, 5 assets, let's say. You've got to meet with all 5 assets, and
which is an informant, by the way, guys.
And we call an asset.
They call it an asset. Yeah.
So you got to meet with all 5 of them every 3 weeks. Well, it's like dating 5 girls. You don't want to say the wrong thing to the wrong one. You know, I remember this thing that you said, and they're like, I never said that thing. So it's a lot of case management.
Good comparison. That's really a fucking fantastic comparison.
So, bro. So the boring part is every time you have a meeting, you basically spend the next 6 hours after the meeting writing it all up. Like you're basically writing. That's what a dossier is. When you talk about dossiers in the movies, you're creating a dossier, and the dossier literally tells you everything that you talked about on what day, at what time, with what person. And then you have a notes section in your dossier where it says, hey, we're going to try to get corroboration from this person over here, or this person corroborated this piece of information over here, whatever it might be. So then before the date, you just review the dossier. You're like, oh shit, I'm meeting with this guy. Okay, he said this. Oh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this up. And then boom, you go, you have your 3, 5, 7 hour meeting. And then you come back and boom, you're writing it up again. Like people don't realize for every hour we spend in the field, we usually spend another 2 to 3 hours writing.
Thank you. Finally, someone else fucking says it. Bro, that is one of the most, people think it's like the movies where they're just, you know, kicking doors in and doing whatever. I've always said it. 5 minutes of fun leads to at least an hour plus of fucking paperwork, man.
Exactly.
Like it's not as sexy as the movies, guys. You got to document everything in excruciating detail. And I would imagine in the intel world, because I've read several intel reports, it's to another level.
Yeah, it's horrible because and your career's on the line and the case is on the line. And if there's a criminal investigation, they're the one that's going to get called up to a court case someday. Be like, hey, why didn't you write this thing down?
Yeah.
Like, were you intentionally trying to hide it? Are you culpable of a crime? And you're like, oh shit. Like,
yeah,
I was just tired and drunk that day. And I didn't really want to I didn't want to write the last 10 paragraphs.
Yeah.
No, you don't want that to happen.
And those debriefings can take hours when you're dealing with assets versus, you know, what's one thing to debrief a guy? All right, bro, where'd you get the drugs? Okay, cool. All right, who's the main smuggler? Cool. All right, this is the guy in the organization. All right, criminal investigation, right? You have to operate in a certain way because you're trying to pursue prosecution. The intel world is different. And I've always said this, right? Like with law enforcement, you have to operate in the light because everything you do is going to be deemed discoverable through the prosecutor. Then they have to give it to the defense because you're trying to challenge someone and take their freedom away in a court of law. The intel world doesn't operate like that. Yeah. They're able to do certain things and operate in a certain way where they're not confined to the constraints of the law. So what that does is it opens things up to interpretation. Things really have to be documented. You're waterboarding someone. Well, guess what? You got to document every time you put that fucking towel on his head and water them before you ask them a question. They got to document all that shit, guys. So
yeah, and it's important too because we're not talking to American citizens. So like when you're talking to an American citizen, that citizen has all the rights that protect them as a citizen.
Yeah.
We're talking to foreigners. There is nothing that protects them, right? We can talk about their marital status. We can talk about their sexual preferences. We can talk about how much money they make. We can talk about their religion. We can talk about anything we want. And everything we talk about could open a door to a new thread of intelligence.